It's so great to be here with you. We have a few minutes. I'm going to put a slide on this screen as a kind of a placeholder, but I'd love to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? What are you looking to get out of today's session? What org are you with? What's your position? That's always really interesting because the world of Spreadsheet touches all. So I'll be there in the chat answering questions for the next minute. Take care. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so the minute is over. Thanks so much for being here. It's amazing to see the chat. It's on fire today. This is a topic that I would say all of us need help with. I need a ton of help. I was kind of the spreadsheet nerd at one of my first jobs. Made really good friends with the advancement services team. But what's true is that there's a certain level of spreadsheet proficiency that can get us really far and can, it's not about being like a robot. It's about um, uh, being able to be even more personalized with our donors and potentially more of our donors. So the reason this class came together was I was chatting with a colleague on DPP Office Hours, which is kind of the weekly interview series that we do here. And she was talking about her experience as a mid-level major gift officer and said, when I learned about mail merge straight from a Word document into my email, it changed my life. So I thought, well, we need to take this knowledge to more people. So I hope you enjoy this today. It's going to be lots of fun. I've been criticized because I'm too chatty during these things. So what I'm going to try to do is give you 20 solid minutes of knowledge, and then just follow it with conversation. You may be at different stages in your life with Excel, and you may want to either ask questions, so write those down. It's only me today, so it's probable that I won't be able to track the chat. So hang on to them, or post them in the chat, and we'll dig for them later. But then we're going to have a chance to do that. So you may be at the very beginning, which is more or less the level for which this is intended. You may know more about this, and if you have specific questions, we can actually dig into more of the details. We had a few of you who very kindly signed on to a paid version of this, which gives you a recording and, most importantly, the satisfaction of supporting the donor participation project, which I feel we're putting out a lot of knowledge that is not readily available, and that's really important for fundraisers to know. So if you want like templates and recordings and some time with me to ask more specific questions, or some time with me and your team, I'm very grateful for you to considering this. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. So Donor Participation Project, our mission here on LinkedIn and in our monthly meetups is to support each other in finding better ways to fundraise that increase donor participation. And participation means exactly that. It's not just giving. It's about being more involved, about having more diverse groups of donors, having a say in what we do, and feeling valued and seen by our actions. So it's a really pretty complex thing. Some of the things we talk about are very strategic. Some of them are super tactical, like this, which is you can't have more donor participation if you're not talking to more of your donors more personally. And technology helps with this. And we all know there are lots of paid tools out there. This level today is one that I hope each one of you can start applying right away the moment we hang this session up. So let me put on the first slide. Mail merge straight into my email changed my life. We hope to have a similar impact on you. I know it's been very impactful. I've almost built my career on just taking it, it's not from going from zero to totally automated like a robot. It's that wonderful middle ground, and I know some people here on the chat today in the room are very adept at that, even on the major gifts perspective. So it's also not like a major gift, a planned gift. This really does impact everybody. So I know, like Anne Murphy, I've seen in the chat, she's a pro at this. Feel free to make connections among yourselves. We're going to start with a very simple thank you email. And to do that, I may struggle a little bit with the technology, but we'll get there. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to show you both an Excel spreadsheet and a Word doc. And we're going to look that through. So bear with me for a moment. You're going to see my entire screen. Okay. There we are. We get this nice effect with the screen inside this screen. Okay. So this is the letter. Can people see it? And I'm going to jump quickly back in. If you could just comment yes that you can see it when I put it on, that would be super helpful. I'm going to assume you do. I'm not seeing comments about that. My goodness, this is going. I told you, technology issues. So I just want to make sure everybody is here with me. The wonders of technology, they make so much possible, but also you have to be careful. So folks, I believe we're here. Letters. This is a very simple thank you letter. I was a little bit funny. I put things in this letter that you're probably not going to say. You tingle with excitement with every gift when you do it. But since this is just between us, I thought we could do a little bit of this. And what you'll see in this letter, if you've done a mail merge, this is very similar to a mail merge. In fact, it's exactly the same. Okay, so the process is that first you write the letter. You can leave placeholders for your merge fields. Right now, these are finished. These are done. But when I was writing it, I actually just wrote, first name. Okay, and this wasn't here. Okay, once you have your letter, you're happy with it, you can copy paste things like your signature into the letter, into the Word doc. So go into your Outlook or your Gmail and copy and paste that into here. It's going to look that way when you send it. So you can do images, you can do pretty fancy things. And then probably just think of like things like the font. Like this is in Times New Roman. Your email is probably not. Maybe it's something like Calibri, something like that. So think of those details. I always say the devil is in the details. This is an email, right? So you're probably not having an address block. Okay, so think of those things. This is a mail merge for an email, and then you connect it. So you go into mailings. You select the recipients. You use an existing list. Okay, and thank you, Jennifer. I'm now seeing your comment, and Alberto and everybody else. Thanks. You use an existing list. You find the spreadsheet here. And this was our spreadsheet for today. You open it, and it asks you what sheets. Those are the little tabs across the bottom. Do you want to use for this mail merge? So this one, we're going to do the basic one and then an advanced one today. And you add it. And then what happens is that this is magically connected to that spreadsheet. So when you want to add a merge field, it's very easy, right? So I believe most of you should have knowledge about this. Maybe, some of you haven't, and that's perfectly good. I've known incredible fundraisers, right? And many of my mentors who wouldn't be caught dead touching this, but I feel like the times have made it so that it's kind of a necessity nowadays. So you add the merge fields. So what I'm going to do is let me show you the spreadsheet, how I set it up. And I'm going to share a couple of details. Like when you've done a lot of these, there's just a couple of things to take care of, right? Okay, so you want a field that is the field that you're going to use for the name, the dear name, right? That can be informal, it can be formal, and we all know that names get super tricky. So sometimes I will create a new column here, that will be the, the letter name, whatever I'm going to use today. In some places, your database may be super clean, in a super good place where you have informal salutation, formal salutation, joint salutations, individual salutations, and that's the ideal situation. In other places, you may have to build it yourself. Okay, and we're going to go into how you do that after the letter portion of this, but you could do it. And I'm not going to say don't you. So the answer to this is don't spend your time typing this out. So if you wanted to be more formal about this, don't do that. There's a way to do it. I'm going to demonstrate now and then explain it a little bit later, where you actually build a string and it does it magically for you. And then you do like this and wham, you have it for everybody. Again, review. We want to make people feel valued and seen. They're kind of the table stakes is, are you calling me by my right name? The correct name, the name I want to be used. Okay, so names. A little bit of a pet peeve there. Gift amounts, and there's going to be a little bit of a nuance in the letter there. When you merge this, the amount won't come through with a $sign. It comes through with a number that's up here. And if this is kind of an annual fund list, the amounts are very high. I just wanted to give you like a broad sampling. And then another thing that happens is that the gift designation oftentimes comes in a machine format, right? It's something that's in your database, and it's not something that you want to put in a letter, right? So the goal of this is to be as human as possible, just with more people at once than you usually could. Okay, so what I do for this, one quick way to fix it is you create a new column. This one I did, I called it gift designation fixed. You copy the machine designations in here, and then you do a find and replace. Yes, Patrick, I would. This is it. Actually, will be. You'll see it later. And also for those who arrived later, there's a paid version of today's session where you actually get all the materials and a recording and all of that. So if, for instance, all the endowment 3, that's the real name for that is the John Albright Endowed Research Fund. You do that, you replace all, and miraculously they're fixed. And I did that for all the options that are on this list, and I created this column that's called gift designation fixed. So that's a kind of, it's much better than manual, right? But still kind of quick and dirty way to fix these things when you get a list and you want to merge it into a letter. So that's, there are also things like adding the so that when it merges, it sounds human. And that's the point the whole time. I've received so many letters that said, dear Mr. Luis Diaz, because just somebody wasn't thinking, or dear Luis Diaz, that's just not how people write. Okay. So that goes there. Let's talk about $signs, which we work with money, obviously, and that's pretty important for us, right? Oh, this one doesn't have that. This one doesn't have that. It was on purpose. It goes in the advanced example. Fundraising idea / tip is this thank you note, which is intended to merge as an email, which is not the gift receipt. That's a legal document, and this is the human relationship building document, right? We're grateful to you. We want to have a relationship with you. One way to do this at scale, if you can't have one-on-one calls with everybody, is to have a survey, which is essentially an interview at scale, right? So think about that, about adding a survey link there. Other strategies I've used is put my cell phone number to ask people to send SMS, or if you have an SMS platform, there's a couple of ways to set that up. Adding an SMS number in there. Um, and so just kind of incentivize the starting of a relationship. That's, you need to do everything you can. The success of this initiative is measured by how many people get back to you. And you'll be surprised at how many people hang on to this, and either when they want to make their next gift or when they have a question about their gift, they reach out to you. Again, incredible relationship building opportunities. Okay, so very quickly, when you want to merge, click on finish and merge, send email messages. You need a column. This is pulling from the spreadsheet, okay? It says email, but that's because there's a column here called email, okay? And I'm not going to actually do the send today. Add a subject line. Thank you. Do something more personal, obviously. But something you can't do is that fancy thing where you merge the name of the person in the subject line. You can't do it through this method. There are other ways to do it. And then mail format HTML, that's the one you want, because that's what allows you to do things like paste your signature and it keeps the formatting there. That's done through HTML. You can send it to a selection of records or even just one record. And you know what record you are here by looking at the top at that little one. Or more likely, you want to send all of them in a batch. And you do that, you press OK, and it starts sending. OK, so having done this many, many, many times, this is going to start sending immediately. And that can be a little bit nerve-wracking, and I'm kind of a little bit paranoid sometimes. There's a book by somebody in tech that says that only the paranoid survive. So the reason I survived is, for instance, in this case, I would actually take the network cable, the internet cable, disconnect Wi-Fi, and plug it, unplug it from my work computer. So that way, all the emails went into Outlook in something called the outbox. And that's in there in your folders. You may never have noticed, and that lets you look at them one less time before they go. Then you plug it in, and they start sending magically. If you have Wi-Fi, just be careful that your computer may go into Wi-Fi, and then that defeats the purpose of this whole thing. You want to see the results. Here they are. Let's see. So something weird is happening here, right? Do you see that? So what happened? Which it's using the wrong column to do this. So let's remove this. And then let's do what I showed you earlier. Insert merge field, gift designation fixed, and try again. Okay. So even then, you see, so there's things that happen all the time. And that's probably because I deleted and then I saved and I moved these around a moment ago. So what we would have to do is close it, open it up again, and that should fix it. Again, I'm generally available to answer questions on that type of thing. And if you need help, like one-on-one for your team and all of that, I'll share the link later. There is a version of today that you can support the DPP with. Okay, I'm going to go quickly into the chat, see if you have questions, and if you'd like to go on. So Matilda shared the link. Yes, Monica, exactly. It freaks me out too. So this is great. If you're finding this helpful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, some type of reaction. Just helps me know I'm on the right track. So number 2. Letter number 2, and you're seeing my screen here. Let me see. Let's just open it. Okay, when you open a file that you've already done a merge with, it's always going to ask you this. Don't freak out, perfectly normal. If you want to just restart from scratch, press no. It's just going to pretend that the mail merge is not happening. But if you've already done it and the spreadsheet and the Word document are in the same file, so if you haven't moved anything around, press yes. If you have moved things around, changed the name of things, it's better to do no and redo it because it just drives Word and Excel nuts, and it sends you into all these types of complicated screens to try to fix it. It's not worth your time. Just do no, set it up again. But I've done it. I'm fairly confident that this is the right setup. I wrote a letter. Again, why did I put this when it's an email? I mean, Louis, please. I guess it's habit, right? You're in Word, you think you're writing a letter. And you have this one is I have a couple of different things that you're going to find helpful. So let's look at it when you merge. Just make sure. Okay, look, now it's working because I didn't change any of the columns before. The name, the fund, the amount. Okay, and then there's a whole entire custom sentence that I put here that you can personalize in lots of different ways. And all of that happens in Excel. And I'm going to show that to you. But also I'm going to show you why this amount. I remember I told you before that dollar amounts don't come through and you're just going to see a number without any formatting. That's because I put a special code in here. And the way to do that is, let me take off the preview results. Okay. So you click on the merge field. Remember, you insert a merge field right here, click down, and you select it, and you put it in here. I'm not going to do that because it's set up already. You click on it, you see it goes gray, and you press Alt F9. And it's going to show you this. It kind of goes into a different view of merge fields that shows you some code and lets you edit them, okay? And what you do to have dollar amounts display correctly, or currency amounts in general, whatever your currency is. I need to remember that we're increasingly international, and this is absolutely fantastic. So to do that, you write this verbatim. So currency / blah, 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 blah. You type that in. Something that happened to me and I learned is that I copied this from the internet and it was in a different font. And if this is in a different font, let me show you. The font of the dollar amount will display incorrectly. So you want to go out from this view again, Alt F9. Oops, sorry, I clicked out. Alt F9. Let's do a merge. So the merge. You see how that's not really Times New Roman? It's Calibri like before. So let's fix it again, or let's unbreak it. Okay. Make sure all of this is Times New Roman. See, it doesn't suggest anything because it's all over the place. So sometimes things are not displaying correctly. It's because of the code inside of this. So this is the advanced mail merge into your email version. But I hope you still find it easy enough that you could use it. I have done this, and it's incredible how much you can personalize. Same things, right? So we personalize the name, the designation. Remember, we made it into a human readable version of it. And then we added a gift amount. Again, remember, this is not the gift receipt, but if it makes sense in the flow of the conversation, or to say you've joined the X society because of your gift of, blah, that's a great thing to have. And then there's this whole optional sentence, and I'm going to go into the spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you the advanced version. And after we do this, we're going to do a quick pause and answer any questions, okay? So the advanced version, this is the same, almost the same spreadsheet, right? Remember, it has the names. We talked before about how you can manipulate the names or any words, right? Strings, they're called in Excel language, to turn them into the formal name or the joint name. And we're going to cover that immediately after this. And then we talked about the human readable version of the designation. Emails, there's no emails here, right? But it would have been, you would have a big long list of emails right here for every constituent. And then I asked for 2 more items from the fictitious nonprofit database, or my kind friends in advancement services. I asked them for the number of gifts this fiscal year and the number of events attended this fiscal year. Okay, and I said, well, so one of the principles of fundraising writing is that you want to make people feel seen, like you're speaking to them, like you know them. And one of the best ways to do it is actually say, thank you so much for all the events you attended this year, or, or for supporting us so frequently in the last year. It means so much to us, etc. So mention things that are specific to that person that couldn't, that they know do not apply to everybody else. Okay, and you can do that with Excel. So this is a little bit more advanced, but again, you have the formula here. And what this does is it essentially, if you see, it's called an if switch. So you're telling it, if this happens, then do this. And then if that didn't happen, then go on to the next idea. The next idea is, if this happens, so if their number of gifts in a year is greater than 1 and they attended more than 0 events, right? Then do this. So you write this sentence, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so this is a really amazing way, if you can figure it out, to really personalize your letters, which is kind of the goal. I have to say, I'm not a logician. I'm not an expert in programming. So I just know that you can keep adding things for every condition. And I write a few conditions, and then I drag this formula down here in the little corner. You can, make this formula apply to the whole column. Okay, and then I see if it makes sense that the ones that are empty are empty. That means it didn't find an idea in here to write a sentence for. And if one's empty that I think shouldn't be empty, then I just add another switch there. So I guess that's kind of the poor man's way to do Excel programming. The only case that doesn't have this optional sentence is if somebody just made 1 gift this year, and probably you want to say, thank you so much for your first gift this year, right? All this thing about first-time donors that we want to do. So you could probably take the whole entire opposite approach. Just write an optional sentence for first-time donors. Leave everybody else alone. So, I have several versions of this, and so let's look at them in the letter. And after I'm done with this, we're going to pause for questions. So then, isn't this cool? So you look at it, then you preview the results. So Carol here, we're grateful that you're such an active member of our community. That means that they just gave once. This is their first gift, but that they've attended lots of events. We're so grateful for all your support and involvement this year. This means Carolyn made several gifts and has attended several events, right? And you can do a better job than I can. I guarantee that the expertise, in here in this room is much higher on your end than on mine. But hopefully, some of these ideas are helpful to you. So it cycles through the different options. Want to send it? Again, I heard some people saying that they would also panic about this thing, that it goes out all at once. Same thing. Unplug your network cable. You can't pause it. I've researched this. Send email messages. Choose the right column where the email is in. To write a nice subject line. Probably leave all of this the same, and wham, it sends to everybody. So before we go on, quick pause. How is everybody finding this? Gmail for people, exactly. For people that work in the Gmail world, this is exactly the same concept. This probably the same formulas too. You can use add-on to Google Sheets, several add-ons, right? Somebody here recommended one. I've used one that's called YAMM, YAMM. Sometimes if your whole nonprofit, your university, whatever your organization is may have a subscription to one of these add-ons at an organizational level. It saves you some money. So yeah, thanks, Sandra. I'm not done yet, but I'd like to see if everybody's coming along with me. I hate to just kind of zoom ahead and leave you behind. So if you have any questions, if you'd like the resources and the spreadsheets, recording, the peace of mind to know that the industry is advancing thanks to your support of DPP, you can achieve all of that by visiting that link. You'll also have some time with me for some questions, individual or with your team, around this type of stuff. So super grateful. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Let me see. Yes, Rick was mentioning yet another mail merge. Fantastic. Joey, more questions about Google Sheets. Always better to rerun the merge from Kevin off on the West Coast. Yes, I would say it's much easier to just say no when you get that alert message when you're opening a document that was already merged, and reset it up. There are ways to fix it. I always stumble and not helpful. Yes, gift operations, acknowledgements, stewardship, solicitations, event reminders, like if you're on the engagement team, honestly, lots of times either the marketing message just doesn't arrive or people gloss over it, but a reminder from somebody miraculously, they read that. And this is coming from your email. So that's good. Oh, another thing, your organization may have limits to the number of emails you can send either per hour or per day or per week. Attachments, you can link to files. So that's the best way around it. So if you have like a Google Drive or an Outlook, whatever the drive is in Outlook, OneDrive, I think, the best way is to link there. But I was saying, if you have a limit, then ask your IT department, explain what you're doing. I've often been able to have them up it. But honestly, like it was like 5 groups of 500, you can take care of your loyal donors. You can take care of different affinities. You can take care of giving societies very easily through this method. And it doesn't require you to go through weeks of marketing approvals and conversations and struggles like that. Yes, excellent. So let's keep going. Now that we're all here. Answer for Kevin: if we buy the recording, will there be a cheat sheet? I'm going to put this on the screen. Cheat sheet of formulas and ideas of how to use them. So the recording is going to come with the files I showed you today with all the formulas. It's going to come with the recording, obviously. It's going to come with the spreadsheet, and you'll see that the spreadsheet as we go along today has all the formulas, not just used, but also typed out on the side. So let me show you that right now. And the place to check that out is right here. So I'll share the screen. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so we talked about names, and I feel like there should be a whole course on manipulating names in Excel specific for people in the fundraising ecosystem. Names are so important, and there's, I don't want to say nothing that bothers a donor more, but it's one of the top pet peeves in my conversations with lots of donors and fundraisers. Why can't you get my name right? I mean, I've been giving to you for 15 years. I'm an alum of this place. I was a patient. How is it possible? I told you 5 times, and then we still don't do it. That can come across as a little nitpicky. But if you think that the goal of fundraising and that oftentimes the reason people are involved is that they want to be involved as a whole person, they want to feel valued, they want to feel seen, and that's like erasing them, right? It's like, you're not important enough for me to get your name right. And I see that used. I mean, I see this happen too frequently. So hopefully today is the beginning of the end of this in the entire fundraising industry. So I hope you'll be a part of this wave of change. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few tools to manipulate names. Actually, they could be any type of sentence, as we saw before, right, with the if switch. But they're called strings in Excel. And I'm going to give you a few tools. For example, when you get a list of names from an event, and that's in a totally different format, it's not the one your database comes in. Or you get a list from your database and the data is all spotty. Sometimes the salutation is in the first name field, or the first and last name are switched in some records. Or what's most frequent is that it's either comes all separated into different pieces of the name, salutation, first, middle, last, and then things like titles and the doctors and the thirds and all that, or it comes in one big chunk and you want to turn that into a Dear Mary letter. Okay, so these are strategies. There's no one strategy that will fix a list that has like totally random types of combinations of the issues that I just mentioned. That is like so complicated that there are products you can buy. And it almost kind of turns into an advancement services things and a database health thing. But oftentimes it takes somebody on the front lines to bring this issue up and kind of say, we need to invest in fixing it. Okay, so you have names here. These are names that are in 3 parts. Okay, so if you have 3-part names like this, you can use the formulas that you see here. So this was one of the questions, right? Well, you have the formulas, yes. When you use the formulas, don't use that little quotation mark. That I just put in there so that it displays and Excel doesn't actually try to run the formula. Word for the wise, when you copy formulas off the internet, you see how these quotations, these double quotes are like going in one direction or another. That's a website trying to be too smart, and Excel doesn't like that. You have to delete those and enter those as straight quotes. Okay. I did that already in the first example. And when I show you the actual examples, you'll see how that works. So we're going really into the weeds. I find that kind of like the craft of fundraising is an unappreciated art, right? But then it can make such an impactful difference if suddenly you can talk to chunks of 1,500 people in a personal way that shows that you care about them and that you know something about them and that you'd like to have more of a relationship with them. How impactful is that? And that starts with a kind of a dumb Excel sheet. So here are the formulas. So this is, imagine in our case, is what you get from advancement services, or you get from an event list or a volunteer who says, look, this is the list of my friends. Can you write them a letter? And you're like, oh my goodness, 53 names. This is, it's an hour of typing. This is absolutely horrible. So you use these formulas. So you see here, you write equal, and then you don't need to know what all of this is. You just copy it from here, right? And you just need to change the A2. A2 is where the full name is, okay? And don't even try to understand what it says. Just believe that it works. And then once you have it at the top, again, this trick to populate a formula through a bunch of columns. You drag it down. You can drag it, or you can double click on it, and it will go straight down. It will try to be pretty smart so that it doesn't go all the way down if there's a space and things like this. So then the same thing here, same principle here. Don't try to understand what this says. Copy it. Change all the A2s for the cell where the full name actually is. So you'll just have to type a little bit there. But once you have all three of these, wham, you can do your 50, 100 names at once. Isn't that beautiful? And I'm going to show you in a second how you put them back together. So you can say, dear Mr. Smith. Some of you that have the sharpest eye in the room may have noticed Lewis punctuation is off here. Some of these, need a full stop. This will require a little bit of keeping on, of manual work. But a trick that you can do is you remove the punctuation in the original file, and then you add it with code in all of them. That will still make it so that master has a dot, and I'm going to show you that in a sec. But otherwise, again, it's about fixing big chunks of data at once instead of going one by one by one by one. Okay, another way to solve the same problem is with something called text to columns. I think a lot of you may know about this, but this is the way it works. Just going to redo it from scratch for you. You copy the full list into where you want the different pieces to start. And you go into data, text to columns here at the top. Okay, you choose delimited. So that means it's going to say, where should I look for the separator in this text? And you're going to tell it the separator here. So is it a comma? No. Is it a tab? No. Semicolon? No. Is it a space? Yes. Okay, look, magic. And it gives you a preview of what you're going to see. Okay, so then you're done. You don't have to really choose the type of column for each one. That that can be helpful, but not in this case. And another way to do this. Isn't that magical? Okay, so I'm trying to follow the conversation here. Let me go back into the main window. We have a few minutes left, but I just want to see if we have any questions. Could you attach different photos for different messages? That was a really good question. So when you're doing the merge, yes, you can actually, because you can have a photo in a cell and then you merge from that cell. There's a couple of ways to do that, but the answer is yes, essentially. Let me see here. No, so You attach different photos for different messages. Yes, you do that in Excel instead of in Word, which is the way to just have the same photo for everybody. That's what I do. I think I missed that, but I'm glad that you're finding that I'm not totally making this up. Thank you, Sandra. Okay, so I'll keep going. In general, thumbs up, thumbs down. Any specific cases that you want to make sure that we talk about today? Please put it there. If you're finding value, just a reaction would be incredible, incredibly appreciated. Let me keep going. Just want to make sure I'm not losing you. Okay. We could have some having a little bit of trouble with you today. Technology. Okay, Lyra is asking, how can I watch this elsewhere? There will be a recording available at the link there. When you sign up for that, there is a small cost, but you're also supporting the donor participation project. You get the resources for today, the spreadsheet, the letters with all the setup, all the formulas, and you actually get some time with me for either individually or with your team. So I think it's an amazing way to improve our sector. I like to, yep, exactly. So Jeanette, thanks so much. This is, yes, but it's not the general DPP membership that gives you access to this. It's actually this separate kind of course module for today. So I would appreciate if you consider this, if you find value in it, of course, and if you think it's going to help you raise, much more money. Only in those situations. Let me keep going. We're almost done. We're talking about names. And we're talking about names, other things that you can do with names, concatenate. Okay, so you broke a name up into pieces. We already talked about how this may require a little bit of manual work, but it will still save you a lot of time. And we talked about 2 methods to turn names into their constituent parts. It's called parsing. Okay, so one way to join names, and actually, the main way is through a formula called concatenate. Concatenate can be done 2 different ways. One is like this. Okay, so it's kind of like a math formula. Instead of a plus sign, it's an ampersand. So you're saying whatever is in A19, make it, add to the end of it a space. So anything that you want to add with text, you have to put double quotes. So add a space and then add whatever is in C19. Okay, so let's look at this. Here we go. Okay, so it's A19, then add a dot, a space, and C19. Okay, this is what we were talking about with the dots earlier, where remember how the example I showed you, they were kind of random. Some of them had punctuation, some of them didn't. We want things, again, I don't know if this is nitpicky, but usually want things to be uniform. I'm not saying there's a rule that says whether something is right or wrong. I tend to dislike that approach, but I do like consistency. And I think it helps our donors when we're consistent and it makes them trust us more. So even in the small details. So what I did was, from that list, I did a find and replace, and I removed all the dots. So I did a find, I selected those names, I found all the dots, and I replaced them with nothing. Okay, nothing's going to happen now because they're not there, but you're essentially replacing, you can't find any dots, so it's not going to do anything. You see, we couldn't find anything to replace, okay? But if they were there, you would have removed them. So I removed them all, and then I added them in through the formula, okay? And that way they all have the dot. But you're going to say, Lewis, Master Williams does not need a dot. So I changed the formula here manually. Okay, so again, some manual work. Another thing that you probably want to know about is that these are formulas. So like if you delete something here, it's going to mess up the actual name. You saw what I did? Dr. Thorpewood here. and it was modified because I deleted the source. Okay. Sometimes you don't want that. You want to be able to, to change things and to keep this list in this format. Okay. And the way you do that is with a special type of paste. Okay. So you copy it, Control C, and you put it somewhere else where you want to keep it. Without being linked to anything else, to any other spreadsheets. You do Control V, you see, oops, that's not working. You click on this little drop down and you choose paste values. Okay, that's the type of paste. And that just copies whatever it says, whatever you can see on the screen. Super important in fundraising, has saved me a ton of time. So very often I will do work, I'll manipulate strings, I will, do all this fancy stuff. And when I'm done, I immediately do a Control copy, I copy it, and then I paste it right on top of where it is, but as values. Okay, that takes the formulas away, and I'm not going to do that because this is the actual spreadsheet that people will get if they sign up. But I do that like when I'm actually working, and then that way I know that this data is not going to change. So yes, so here and then paste values. That's the one you want to click. Okay, so this is one way of putting names back together again. Say you want to include somebody's spouse. Okay, very common fundraising, the craft of fundraising issue, right? That comes across is that we're trying to be as personal as possible. We know somebody is married. We know we know people tend to include their spouse in their philanthropic decisions, but then we only write one-person letters. And people misinterpret that all the time. Oh, you're only writing the man. Oh, you're only writing the woman. Oh, why aren't you including my spouse? So again, takes judgment, not for everybody. The ideal situation is when people tell you how they want to be addressed, but even if they do, sometimes it might be nice to include the spouse, like in an event invite, things like that. So this is where Excel meets advanced fundraising, and it's a very exciting space for me. So same thing, it's concatenate. You're telling it, take what's in B19, concatenate it to the whatever's inside of these quote marks, double quote marks, and then add whatever's in D19, which is here, Mary. So you're building a string that says, Dear John and Mary. Isn't that nice? Okay, so resources that you have here, keep an eye out, okay? Concatenate, a couple of examples. Trim function, something that happens very often. You get a list from your database and it looks okay, but when you start trying to concatenate it with things, there are weird spaces, there's like a huge tab-like space afterwards, or there are errors. And that usually is because what's coming from the database, even though it looks clean in Excel, has kind of these like pesky characters that are hiding at the beginning or at the end of it. And it's not the perfect way. It doesn't take care of absolutely everything, but it will take care of most of these issues, is a formula called trim. So what you do is you take what you're getting from the database. I'm going to put an example here, and you write equal trim, and you just trim that. Okay, it's going to look exactly the same to you. But it will have removed some of those weird characters or computer codes that are there. So that's a good one to clean up text. Exactly. Okay, find and replace. We talked about that. We've talked about that a couple of times. Very handy. Sometimes you want to find things with wildcards, and you can do that in Excel. So this is the traditional wildcard asterisk. So if you want to do cloud asterisk, it's going to find any string that has cloudy. It has a string that says cloud and snow, cloudy and snowy. It's going to identify all of those. But if you just want it to find one character, it's a question mark. If you actually want to search for an asterisk, imagine your text comes with all types of asterisks and you want to remove them, you wouldn't do this, because that would just find anything. That means just find anything. What you would do is do this, which means, hey, what, you know what? Actually find the real asterisk sign in the spreadsheet. So, a couple more kind of the name manipulation data that you get from the database type of issues. We have 10 more minutes. So we have one more area that's filters. How are we doing? Give me some feedback. Some questions here. How do you make it sequential? A list or calendar dates? How do you make it sequential? So what I think you mean is, say you're writing 1, 2, 3, and what you want it to do is go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excel is pretty smart about that, and will try to guess what it is that you're trying to do. But I don't have materials prepared for that today. So usually you select the 1 through 3, and then you do that trick that we talked about with the, you double click on the little corner, and typically it will understand that you're actually trying to go forward with the numbers instead of repeat 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's, I hope that answers the question. I hope you find that helpful. So last 10 minutes, filters. Again, appreciate like one of those little thingy-majiggies. If you're liking this, I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to talk about filters really quickly and wrap this up. So we have this list you got from the database. You want to write people who follow certain characteristics, because imagine you got a list of all your donors. Okay, you would only want to talk to people who made 3 or more gifts this year. Maybe you think that they will be more involved and more likely to do something. You're probably right. In fact, they will be more likely to give again too. All the data shows that. Or you want to write to people who came to lots of your events, or you want to write to people who gave to a specific fund. And actually what I did here is I wrote some questions that you could be asking yourself about this data. Let me pull them out from the other one. Who has given but attended 0 events this fiscal year? So it's somebody, they may not be in the area for your events, and maybe you want to see if you have lots of people in that category, right? So you do all of that with filters. You can answer all of these questions with who has given. Okay, so you have a number filter here. You can do a greater than who has given. So that means that the number of gifts this year is greater than 0. Greater than doesn't include the number you put in. Greater or equal than does include the number you put in there. So, okay, this is everybody who gave. Everybody on the list, in fact, has given. And then, but has not attended any events. So an easy way to do this, you click on select all, which deselects all the options, and you click on 0. That's another, you can do the number filters too. Ta-da, look at this. Okay, so I invite you to take a look here, the bottom left, 12 of 86 records found. I find this super valuable, every time. So you have this nice list of people. Maybe you can look something else up if you have their location here. Why haven't they come to anything? How can we get them more involved? We want a deeper relationship with them, because we know that will lead to bigger gifts. Or you can also just kind of other Excel tricks. You can count the number of records. Another way, you just select them and you go here where it says count 12. You see it gives you the count. If you click, it copies it to the clipboard. Google Sheets behaves a little bit differently. Okay, so more things that you can do. Who has given more than 3 times? Remember, I just said, well, these are likely to be engaged donors that trust us. Possibly visit is in order, or possibly at least a call from a board member. It just depends. So we can do the number filters route. We can just remove who gave 3 or more times. This is like a very visual way to do it, but I find it to be very nice. Okay, how many do we have? 55. This is amazing. Of those, who are interested in research. Okay, so this is assuming that you have some way to tag people, or have tagged people in the past, or some way to identify interest. And that's again a very advancement services thing. Text analysis of contact records, past giving history. But once you get to another way to do it, like web behaviors. But once you actually have them tagged, it's so handy, right? Because you say, okay, who has given more than 3 times this year and is interested in research? But look at this. This is a list of interests. We have interest 1, interest 2, and interest 3. and they're not all in the same column. What can I possibly do about this? Because if I just filtered by interest, which I could, you deselect all, you just select interest. Okay. But that very first one that had research here, we're going to miss them. And this is an example, so potentially you're missing out on lots of records, right? So the way to do that is with another formula, which is right here. It's count if. So it's going to look at a number of rows, a number of cells, okay? And it's going to check if something is happening in them that you're telling it to check for. So this is going to count how many times the word research appears in these 3 rows, okay? And then it's going to say, if it's a 1, it appeared once. And if it's a 0, it didn't appear. Okay, so let's do this whole thing again and use this column, which is a better way to do it than just doing it on the first column where you're going to miss many people. Okay, so we said more than 3 times, people who gave more than 3 times and are interested in research. We remove the zeros, as easy as that. Ta-da! 15 records. Really potentially high value people. Even more. What if we want their gift amount? These are crazy gift amounts, probably more like lifetime giving, right? Let's imagine this is lifetime giving. If we want people with lifetime giving over 100K. Okay, narrow down to 12. Isn't this a great list? So this is a way to use filters in a development, informed way that I have found tremendously helpful. I would say the next steps for this are pivot tables, things like lookups that you can use. So thoughts, did you find today helpful? I hope you did. If you'd like to be involved with the donor participation project, check us out, joindpp.org. We are a community of fundraisers. Our main activities, we get together every month to talk about how to improve donor participation in nonprofits. We believe that it can be changed and that there are things in the way we fundraise that need to change. And we want to support each other in going along that journey. So that's essentially who we are. And we have a ton of other activities that we'd love to involve you in. If you're into video games, which I wasn't, but my kids were, and I'm kind of being dragged into this world, we have a course on video games that's coming up next month pretty quick. So there's full scholarships available. It's very accessibly priced. And, we're doing this because we believe that to improve donor participation, we have to find new communities of donors or where our donors are already gathering and go where they are and learn about it. And, video game streaming esports is actually a place where people are philanthropic and are very community oriented. You wouldn't think of it, but these, people who are involved in these cultures, and maybe you are too, tend to be like very close knit, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. And we want nonprofits to participate in that. So I'll be wrapping up. Thanks so much to everybody. I hope you found value. If you have any questions, reach out on LinkedIn. Take care. Bye-bye.